2020. We have Power and Corruption, close affiliates. We have with us Claudia Wallin, a Brazilian journalist and author based out of Sweden. Prior to moving to Stockholm, she worked for 10 years in London as the bureau chief of the TV Globo in Europe, director at International Herald Tribune TV, and producer at the BBC World Service. With a bachelor's degree in journalism from the Federal University of Rio de Janeiro, a master's degree in Russian and Eastern European Studies from the University of Birmingham in the United Kingdom, she is also the author of the book, Sweden, The Untold Story, which takes a fascinating look at the Swedish model of government, its commitment to transparency and openness, and its deep-seated aversion to politicians, judges and public servants enjoying any special privileges or advantages. Joining her is Fidel Fernando, a writer and satirist based in Colombo. In addition to writing on travel and history, he also follows the Sri Lanka cricket team as part of his job as ESPN's Sri Lanka correspondent. His book, Upon a Sleepless Isle, is an account of his travels through his homeland. We also have Stocklassa, a former Swedish diplomat and businessman. He served as the Swedish commercial counselor for the Swedish Trade Council. He is the author of the novel Gripen of Prague, a fictionalized account based on his experiences of a Czech supersonic jet fighter deal involving the SAAB and the British aerospace when it showed signs of corruption. In 2018, his book, Stieg Larsson's Archive, translated in English as The Man Who Played with Fire, Stieg Larsson's Lost Files and the Hunt for an Assassin, Stocklassa investigates the assassination of Olof Palme. And they are in conversation with Keshava Guha, a writer and editor with a degree in history and politics at the Harvard and creative writing at Goldsmiths University of London. His novel Accidental Magic is set in Boston in the early 2000s in a community of adult Harry Potter obsessives. He is the fiction editor at Juggernaut Books in New Delhi. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Claudia Wallin, Fidel Fernando, Stocklassa in conversation with Keshava Guha.
About a subject that as Indians we think we know a lot about, corruption. But we're going to look at it not just in an Indian context, but also with the three other countries in mind as well. Two of those countries, I think, have a lot in common with India, Brazil and Sri Lanka. And the other one, Sweden, we're going to look at also as a case study in how things can be different, right? Because there's certain assumptions we make in India. Politicians are corrupt. Corruption is part of everyday life. Politicians lead lives that are different from those ordinary people. And by looking at Sweden, we look at how that might not always have to be the case. So I want to start with Claudia. Once we've... Yeah,
say some?
Yeah, that's okay. So Claudia, before we come to Sweden, you grew up and you started working as a journalist in Brazil, which is a country where, like I said, like India, corruption was seen as normal, everyday. It was assumed that politicians were corrupt. So could you tell us about the Brazil that you grew up in, and the kinds of corruption that you were familiar with?
Yes, Brazil is a violently corrupt country, and the politicians there, they live like aristocrats. But to give you an idea, Brazilian politicians, they can even do nose jobs at the expense of the taxpayers' money. They can do plastic surgeries. They can, eat in any luxury restaurants. They have 5-star health care in private hospitals. And they are super salaries, The president has just bought 39 luxury cars just for the use of the vice presidents and the president's families. So that is the culture. I grew up in the middle of a military dictatorship on top of that. So, of course, when I moved to Sweden, I was up for a shock. I spent 10 years in London, but there I met my Swedish husband. And when I went to Sweden, it was a big surprise. And let me say some things that may shock you. In Sweden, the politicians go to work by bus. They live in state apartments as small as 16 square meters. They work in parliamentary offices as tiny as 7 square meters. And they even wash their own clothes in shared laundry facilities. And there is even a laundry facility inside the Swedish parliament where the politicians have to wash their own clothes. So Sweden does not offer luxury and privilege to its politicians at the expense of the taxpayers' money. What the Swedish MPs receive is actually a card to use the public transports. And politicians who dare to take a few taxis instead of using the public transport, they end up in newspapers' headlines. So in my book there is an example of a newspaper headline that says exactly this: MP Michaela Waltersson took taxi instead of taking the train. So this is the sort of thing we're
Actually, Claudia, why don't you just hold up your book so people can see it? So, Sweden the Untold Story is a much longer subtitle, which we won't read right now, and it's available on Amazon.
It is on Amazon.
And it's really, it's a book that, especially in countries like Brazil where people are used to corruption, I think people have been shocked by the book. I mean, as Claudia was saying earlier, in Brazil there were people who went to the Maracanã football stadium.
They were in Maracanã holding this placard saying, Sweden, please send us some of your politicians because ours suck. In Maracanã, it was very
So, Claudia, do you want to play the video that you, do we have she has a video that, because people, she says, right, that people live, politicians live ordinary lives, but I think it's good for us to see it a little bit more.
Yes, this is one of the TV reports I did when I arrived in Sweden and I saw this reality. So I started producing a number of TV stories to show, and this was actually one of them that we can have a look now, and who give us an idea of how it is, and it was actually the origin of my book. So, yes.
So whenever you're ready.
A Suécia ainda é uma monarquia, mas o rei já perdeu todos os poderes. Quem decide os rumos do país é a classe política, que não tem direito ao luxo nem privilégios. Deputado federal na Suécia vive em apartamentos funcionais como este, de 40 metros quadrados. Um único cômodo serve de sala e quarto de dormir. É espaço suficiente para os parlamentares viverem na capital durante a semana, diz a chefe do setor. Nenhum apartamento funcional tem máquina de lavar roupa. A lavanderia é comunitária e os deputados precisam marcar hora na agenda para lavar a roupa suja. Alguns deputados têm ainda menos espaço, 18 metros quadrados. Aqui, até a cozinha é comunitária. Não há empregados e as regras são rígidas. Deixe tudo limpo. Até a década de 90, apartamentos funcionais nem existiam aqui na Suécia. Os parlamentares dormiam em sofás-cama no próprio gabinete, aqui no parlamento. O gabinete do deputado tem 18 metros quadrados. Nenhum parlamentar tem secretário nem assessor particular. E nenhum deputado tem direito a carro com motorista. Sou eu que pago os políticos, diz este sueco. Não vejo razão nenhuma para o dinheiro do contribuinte ser usado para dar a eles uma vida de luxo. A residência oficial do primeiro-ministro tem 300 metros quadrados, mas não há empregados para cuidar das tarefas domésticas. O porta-voz do governo diz que o primeiro-ministro passa suas próprias camisas e lava a roupa. O comentarista político da TV sueca revela a tarefa preferida do primeiro-ministro: arrumar a casa.
So counselors, they do not even earn a salary, and they don't have the right to an office either. They have to work from home, because in Sweden, the political activity at local level is considered to be a voluntary work, which must be exercised in parallel to a regular job from which every politician has to make their own money. And when it comes to corruption, which is our subject here, it is a relatively rare phenomenon, talking about political corruption. And one of the infamous cases of corruption in Sweden is actually from the 90s, when the deputy prime minister at that time, she used the government cards to buy a bar of Toblerone and another few items using the cards. And she had to resign in a case which became known as the Toblerone case. And it must be said that one of the major tools that Sweden invented to prevent corruption was the transparency law. The Swedish transparency law is the oldest in the world. It was created in 1766. So it is up to a free media to supervise power, and also this law gives any Swedish citizen the right to open access to public documents, and anybody can, for instance, check the expenses of any politician, including the Prime Minister. You also have the opportunity to check the tax return of the Prime Minister, and twice a year the government ministers and the MPs, they have to publish a list, it's a public list, with their financial interests, if they have shares in some companies, in order to avoid conflicts of interest. So I think it's a model that can be, an inspiration, especially for us, myself included, to come from very vulnerable democracies, because this can be changed, it has to be changed.
So it's so interesting because for us in India, Sweden is always associated with the first really famous corruption scandal. A scandal from which, in a way, the reputation of Indian politicians is yet to recover, and certainly the reputation of the Congress Party and the Gandhi family is yet to recover, and that is the Bofors scandal of the 1980s. And I'm curious because, one, you've worked on the murder of Olof Palme, which is, from a similar time period. Your first novel also deals with questions of corruption and arms deals and that kind of thing. And also, I was curious whether you agree with the picture that Claudia has painted of Swedish politicians, or whether you have a slightly different take.
Well, the picture that Claudia tells is true, and it warms my heart as a Swedish person. And I grew up in a poor home, and I managed to get a university degree, and there's actually a lot of social movement also in Sweden. So there's a lot of good things in Sweden. Now we come to the bad part. And we're also, in 2011, we were the largest weapon exporter in the world per capita. And we're always among the 10 largest weapon exporters. And arms export is always, or very often at least, goes hand in hand with corruption. So we don't have very much corruption in Sweden. We export it. And that has been proven for several times actually. So the Bofors scandal in my book, it deals with the murder of our Prime Minister Olof Palme, who was actually very close to Rajiv Gandhi. And our Prime Minister was shot on the 28th of February 1986. And 2 weeks later was the funeral. Rajiv Gandhi was there, and he said, "We will buy a lot of guns from Sweden. We will buy," I don't remember, I think it's more than 2,000 of the Robert 70. It was the biggest arms deal. And 1 year later was the Bofors scandal of that.
But it's worth pointing out that the Bofors scandal was actually reported in Sweden before it was reported in India, and it was using the Swedish media and actually certain Swedish sources that the Indian media was able to report it. But before we move on, since you studied this topic, and we take it for granted that arms deals are associated with corruption and with a particular form of corruption, the kickback. But why arms deals in particular? Why do you think that arms deals are such a lucrative area for politicians?
Arms deal. You need arms to fight wars, and there's an international law according to the UN. You cannot export weapons to war-fighting countries, or to dictatorships for that matter. But they want to buy a lot of, they need the weapons, especially the ones that are fighting the war. So there are always someone who's prepared to sell it, and they do it secretly. And if you do something secretly and there's a lot of money involved, then you get agents and you get corruption, and the politicians get a lot of money. So it's an invitation to breed corruption.
And one question both to Claudia and to Jan before we move on, and that is, how do these allegations of Sweden exporting corruption, how do people in Sweden feel about this? So how does the Swedish media report on these issues? Claudia?
Yeah, I think that the perception of corruption has been actually changed in Sweden, because the Swedes, not so long ago, they thought there was no corruption in the country whatsoever. And then a few corruption cases came to the fore, and people became a little bit shocked. So yes, there is corruption. When we talk about politics, is especially more at the municipality level, because there is less supervision from the media, for instance. We're not talking about huge political scandals, but yes, there is. So there's a lot of talk now in Sweden and studies to say, okay, are we actually more corrupt than we thought we were? There's a lot of debates going on, but definitely not that image of a corruption-free country. Because of course, also, it doesn't exist a perfect society. So my take on the book is not to talk about a perfect society, but it is a possible society, I feel. It's possible. Sweden shows that it's possible to build, as Jan said, a socially just democracy, transparent, which does not offer privilege to politicians and judges, and where corruption is a relatively rare phenomenon. And I think I hope it can be an inspiration.
Jan, you like to add to that?
I think we're in for better times, and it's not coming from Sweden, unfortunately, but it's actually coming from the US, where they have very strict very strict anti-money laundering laws, and that American companies can't pay bribes, and then they're coming after everybody else. So for the big deals, if it's weapons or telco or infrastructure deals, there will be less bribes. And now then you have to move to the next level, to municipalities or provinces, and then finally you can have a...
That's a really important point that Jan raised. And if you look at the Mueller report in the US, one of the things that it found was extensive, corrupt activities by Americans in Ukraine. And Trump's campaign manager, Paul Manafort, was actually sent to jail for that, rather than for anything to do with the election itself. Okay, so moving from Sweden much closer to home. Now, actually, before that, we should say what corruption is. Now, because in India we have this idea, I think the Indian voters' idea of corruption is bribery. It's literally a large envelope full of cash, that are received in the dead of night by somebody, right? And that's just one kind of corruption. I would say, it's my definition, but very broadly, corruption is when politicians are doing, are serving the private good rather than the public good. I mean, when they're not doing the people's business, but they're, serving some other private interest. So, Fidel, Sri Lanka has many problems in common with India. Some that are a bit distinct. But I want to start with one that I think is quite in common, and that is the role that corruption plays in society through form of patronage, right? Politicians essentially using patronage as a way to entrench power, but also as a way to build popularity. So, and this is something that is very true of Sri Lanka as well.
Yeah, it's true, but before I answer that, just listening to Jan and Claudia speak, I was reminded of the time. So in my day job, I cover cricket. I was in New Zealand in 2015. New Zealand, another country which has virtually no obvious corruption. And I was in a group of journalists, South Africans, New Zealanders, and myself. And New Zealand at the time was going through a very, very minor corruption scandal, the scale of which would not have even ever registered on our scale in South Asia. I can't remember what it was because it was so insignificant. And I remember picking up a paper, and it was just a group of us, two groups of developing world kind of journalists and the New Zealanders. And the op-ed in one of the papers started with, in New Zealand we must be vigilant because even here corruption can occur. And the South Africans just started cracking up at the ridiculousness of that sentence. And New Zealanders didn't understand why we found it so funny, because it's so embedded in our political system that we just expect it as just a precondition of our existence. In terms of patronage, yeah, so in Sri Lanka what happens is politicians are kind of expected to serve their electorate in specific ways, and the most obvious kind of the biggest expectation that when you vote in a politician into your electorate is that they provide jobs. And not just by creating sort of new businesses or sort of private enterprise jobs. It's mainly that the government jobs will be handed out to people in their electorate, right? So essentially, what parents want, what families and electorates want, is to have their kids given jobs, maybe in the wildlife department or in the IRD or in the local government office. In the electricity department, so the local MP has the powers to make that happen, and it's kind of an effect where it comes out of there not being enough jobs in that electorate, right? So because there are so few opportunities, and they need to rely on the MP, even if the MP has a reputation for being less than clean, a little bit corrupt. Maybe there are rumors of kickbacks that he's taken on certain public goods, infrastructure deals. People are willing to forgive that because this other stuff is so much more vital to how they're going on in their lives. Everyone agrees that the corruption is a bad thing. Everyone wishes that he wasn't corrupt or she wasn't corrupt. But the good that he or she performs with these other little patronages, maybe they'll and always, almost invariably, when it comes close to election time, there's kind of a slew of handouts that's handed out. So some families will get new trishaws, new vehicles. There's always something that's rolled out just before election time, just to underline the fact that this person cares about your particular family, wants to alleviate any kind of economic distress that you might be under. And because of that kind of thing, we forgive the corruption that may occur. And in fact, the last general election was very, very interesting. Just happened 2 months ago. Gotabaya Rajapaksa defeated Sajid Premadasa, and the Rajapaksas were voted out in 2015, essentially for having overstepped and for being too corrupt. But the economy kind of was, or at least the government that replaced them was seen to be so poor on the economy and people sort of felt that they were really struggling. People were actually willing to vote back the old group that they voted out initially for being too corrupt, because it's their lives under the previous government had their standard of living had decreased, and that's kind of emblematic of how it works and how we perpetuate corruption in South Asia.
That's a great point, because I wanted to take up the issue later of why we re-elect corrupt politicians, and I think you've already answered it in part. But you said that everybody thinks corruption is a bad thing. I think that everybody says they think corruption is a bad thing, but they often act differently. Now in India, we do have some people, some scholars, writers, etc., who argue that corruption is not a bad thing. And the claim that is usually made is that it's exactly because of the process that you described. Corruption actually can serve to redistribute assets between social groups. So if you have a politician from a previously disadvantaged community who is also serving their community through patronage, then state resources are actually being, my counter-argument is actually it's usually the poor who suffer most from corruption on a day-to-day basis. Yeah.
So it's good. I remember another time when I was traveling and when someone sought to bribe for me. So I got on the wrong train essentially, right? So and this story kind of has to do with the relationship between power and corruption that we don't often talk about. I was going between Colombo and Kandy. There was a fast train to Colombo and Kandy. It takes only an hour and a half. I turned up in time to buy that ticket, but all the tickets for that train had been sold out. I bought a ticket for a later train, but because I wanted to get to where I was going quicker, I just thought I'd risk it and jump on this train for which I didn't have a ticket. Eventually, a ticket officer comes down, and he's like, he catches me up and says, okay, so you need to pay the fine. But as he's saying that, he also says this shorthand in Sinhala, which is what needs to happen now, right? That's the phrase that they use in Sri Lanka. Everyone understands when you say that this person is seeking a bribe. And I said, no, I'm happy to pay the fine. And he kind of looks at me like, are you insane? Like, what's wrong with you? And I'm like, no, it's okay, I'll pay the fine. He's like, it's 2,500 rupees. So this is 2,500 rupees, is probably about 1,500 Indian. I don't know the exchange rate. And I say, no, I'm okay. And then he says, look, just stay here for 5 minutes, I'm going to go into the next cabin and come back. Expecting me to change my mind in that time. I still haven't changed my mind. But I think what struck me at that point was that although 2,500 rupees is, kind of a significant sum, for me, it's kind of a killing sum for some people. Like a day laborer in Colombo would earn maybe that in 2 days, right? And I have a disposable income, and I have savings that I can dip into. It's not going to be a major inconvenience for me. I'm probably not going to think about that beyond today. But for someone who is from much more modest economic circumstances, it's going to take a real hit for their family. It might be the grocery bill. It might be that their kids can't buy something. So it takes power to stand up to corruption as well. You need to have a little bit of privilege and power to kind of say no to that. To an extent, it would be stupid for someone else from much more modest circumstances to put their family
So, one more question about Sri Lanka. This is to do with how the Sri Lankan case is different. And that is, of course, you've had a tragic, decades-long civil war. And, world over, we know that in war zones, corruption of all kinds becomes the norm. So, could you tell us more about how that functioned in Sri Lanka?
Yeah, so again, all through the war years, I think everybody knew that there were corrupt politicians in the government, and those politicians kept getting voted in. And the reason is, when you've got something as cataclysmic and profoundly debilitating as a war, your priority is not getting rid of corruption in the system. Your priority, when you go to the polls, every time your priority is national security, security of your family. So you're willing to excuse all this bad behavior from your politicians because you have different, maybe you think after the war we'll sort it out, you can vote the corrupt politicians out. Right now, the need of the hour is maybe someone who's strong on national security, even if they're weak on corruption.
Okay, so the question of why we reelect corrupt politicians, maybe the broader question of, well, why are some countries more corrupt than others, right? And you hear many explanations that are offered by academics. So one is just that it has to do with countries at a higher level of income, higher level of human development, higher level of education, tend to be less corrupt. Another would look at culture. You talk about low trust societies, high trust societies, homogeneous societies versus diverse societies, violent societies, history of violence, etc. And then probably the most common answer you'll hear is about institutions, right? So rule of law, free press, strong regulatory institutions, that kind of thing. So yeah, you've been a diplomat, you worked in different countries, you obviously know the most about Sweden. Do you think it's institutions that finally determine why, say, a country like Sweden is less corrupt, or is it culture, or is it level of development?
It's a very good question. It's actually, it must be a combination of that. Maybe it's also the cold climate. I don't know, but it's we're a country of 10 million people. You're 130 times that. It's a little bit easier to keep track of what people do or don't do. but we also had a long egalitarian tradition. We had already the Vikings, and I don't have horns today, but I'm also a Viking. Can't see it really, but it's the same people, but they were actually, they had a sort of democracy, one man, one vote, and so these tiny societies that have grown into the modern Sweden and the other Scandinavian countries. I think 4 out of the 5 on the least corrupt countries in the world are actually in our part of the world, in Scandinavia. New Zealand is there, that's on the other side. And so it's, I think there's some cultural part, it's the size, the functioning institutions, the lack of bureaucracy. For instance, you need very few forms in Sweden. You don't have to go hardly ever to an office to get a stamp. And if you do, you get it quickly, so you don't have to pay someone to get it quicker. So if the bureaucracy works better, then it's easier, and you don't have to pay someone to get it by yourself. So combination of all these things.
And actually the point about bureaucracy links to culture, because trust plays a large role there. I mean, a chronic problem we have in India is the state is suspicious of citizens, right? The state is suspicious of business. You always have to prove that you're innocent, in a way, prove that you're honest. And a culture in which you have fewer forms of bureaucracy is often because the assumption is that you're honest. The assumption is that you can be trusted. Now, Claudia, Brazil is a country in which corrupt politicians do often get re-elected, but people accept that politicians will be corrupt. So, you've now lived in these two countries. You've told us that Sweden's different. Do you have a theory about why?
Well, I think that's these points that Jan raises very interesting in terms of like equal opportunities and social justice, because this is why, as you were saying also in Sri Lanka, why do they vote for corrupt politicians? Because these are countries where the population don't have their basic rights, like rights to housing, rights to education, rights to health care. So if you take a society like Sweden, everybody has that level and much more, because in Sweden actually equality is a fundamental value in the Swedish society. Nobody is better than anybody else. There is even a non-written law in Scandinavia actually called the Jante law that says exactly this: don't think that you're better than anybody else, and that applies to the politicians as well. For instance, in Brazil, people vote for the politician who is going to give them, a prosthesis for the leg, a place in the hospital for their mother who is dying. So they vote for politicians who promise to give them things that actually should be their basic rights, which are not fulfilled. So while we have these extreme unequal societies, I think that's, it's going to be very hard to fight corruption.
So I want to open up the questions in a minute. Before I do that, I want to say something about India, because that's where we are. We haven't really been talking about it. And I think it might be something for you also to, that you may not, I don't know, the three of you, how much you'll know about what I'm about to say. And I want to talk about something that is, I think it's the most important issue in our politics that gets the least attention. And that's something called electoral bonds. Now, those of you in the audience, how many of you think, be honest here, how many of you think you could give a clear explanation of what electoral bonds are and how they work? Raise your hands. Okay, I think it's a very honest audience. I really appreciate that. Okay, so the electoral bond scheme was introduced 3 years ago by the then government that was then re-elected. Now, firstly, it's misleadingly named, because it's not a bond. It as one journalist writes, but it's a gift voucher. It's actually a voucher scheme. It's like buying an Amazon gift card, right? So what it is, it allows individuals or companies, typically companies, to buy a voucher. They buy it through State Bank of India. You can be paid for either through check or through money transfer. That money is then deposited in the account of the political party to which this company has chosen to donate. The crucial point here is, at no point do the citizens or the election commission ever get to know which company gave the money to the political party, right? Now, the defense trotted out by the government of the scheme was that it's not black money, it's gone through the banking system, therefore the company will have to pay corporation tax. The company's all paying corporation tax, it's all declared. But the money is not, the money may be declared, but the donation is not declared, right? Because the reason this is important is because, I said at the start, or I said earlier, corruption is not only an envelope at midnight, right? Essentially, the electoral bond scheme allows the system to be bought by companies who are serving their own interests, right? You can give an amount of money to the government and a regulation can be altered a month later, and a regulation can be altered to favor a company, and you'll never know whether or not that company gave money. You'll just know the government received money. They won't tell you the political party received money. They won't tell you from whom. 95% of the donations in the first year of electoral bonds went to a single party. And I don't have to say which party, right? And the scary thing is, this is going on. The donations total in the thousands of crores, and we just don't talk about it. And it tells you that even though we claim in India to be against corruption, we don't actually seem to care all that much as long as it's sufficiently well hidden. Okay, so with that, I want to open up to questions. Right here, the first two of you right in the front.
Good evening, everyone. This is the most geographically diverse panel which we have. Thanks for that. So my question is, we have been talking about corruption on a system level, but when we go to person, the people who make that system, and when we compare from a developing nation to a developed nation, wherein a person coming in a developing nation comes from a society of scarcity, and a person in a developed nation comes from a society of abundance. So when that particular person gets into power, does it become inevitable for that person to bring in that corruption seeps in inevitably in that person to make, because all what that person has seen, if not him, around him, that there is a constant struggle in a developing nation, there is a constant race, constant fight. So when that particular person holds that power, they want to make the best of it, and because of the system which favors it. So does it become inevitable?
Okay. Fidel, you want to get the question on that?
Yeah, I mean, inevitable is maybe too strong to put. I think there have been examples in Sri Lanka, especially of corruption being rolled back in specific, like, in some government institutions, where someone, essentially the corruption is much easier to roll back when you have kind of an autocrat. And that's what actually really, this is what Sri Lanka's big experiment is now, where an autocratic leader has been elected, and he's kind of promising to roll back corruption. Whether that works out or not, we'll have to see on a big scale. But I think in specific government institutions, yes, autocratic leaders have come in, trod on rights, and that's almost been like a necessary mode of operation in order to get rid of corruption. And then maybe sometimes it's worked out well, and corruption's kind of been suppressed forever, or has been suppressed so far. Other times corruption's going to come back in as soon as that leader has left the building, essentially. Yeah, it's... anyone else?
Any other comments? Well, there's an interesting case. I think another way of looking at your question is to look at India, right? Because India is also a federation of states. And if you look at the states of India, there's absolutely no evidence that wealthier states are less corrupt. If you look at states like Tamil Nadu, like Maharashtra, like Andhra Pradesh, like Karnataka, all of which are among the 10 or 12 wealthier and more educated states of the Union, I think many political science, it's very difficult to measure corruption, but I think that there's a lot of evidence that they are among the most corrupt states. So I don't think it's easy to generalize and say unconditional scarcity you have more corruption. Often the more resources allow for more corruption.
Also, I just want to add one final thing. If you define corruption as special interests taking hold, in the US you've got a system where special interests dominate the political discussion, and it's all legal. I mean, it's not classed as corruption because it's legal, but in a lot of ways it's legalized corruption. It sounds very much like the electoral bonds that you were talking about.
I should say that the inspiration to the electoral bonds came from that, from what they call dark money in the US. Yeah, question.
Yeah, good evening. Mr. Jain mentioned about the arms weapon. I just want to make a comment on that. Arms weapons, basically there is a lot of secrecy around it. I mean, in the name of within security, national security, etc.
This is number one. Number two is it's handled with very small number of people. Very small number of people.
Very few people are involved.
Very few people are involved in it. So there is a word adage which says absolute power corrupts absolutely. So this is one. Herein lies also the cronyism. When you mentioned about exporting weapons, exporting corruption also, it's the cronyism which is coming, what is indirectly what Keshava referred to as the electoral bonds. A lot of funds come from unknown lobbies, unknown corporates, unknown companies. So, but coming back to the main point is the power and corruption. Globally, it is seen, I mean, as per the statistics, there is a rising inequality globally. In simple words, which are becoming richer, poorer. But yes, there is a small mass which is improving, as you said, that life improvement is there. But this inequality and what Claudia said, that equality is the most fundamental aspect in Sweden. But if you see at the global level, this inequality actually transfers into power asymmetry. And this power asymmetry tries to keep that power in asymmetry as a part of cronyism, so that corruption also exists because of this asymmetry. So asymmetry and corruption are closely related.
That's a great point. That actually in Sweden, because it's such an equal society, politicians are relatively less powerful than they are in an unequal society.
And we are in a very large number,
Yeah.
so that number game is also involved. That is why the corruption also exists.
Yeah, I agree with that. The secrecy and the inequality and everything. But there is a lot happening. I was here 3 years ago in India, and technologies can do a lot. The smartphones, you can actually prove corruption by recording someone. There are a lot of things that are going to happen. That's already transparency. It's not a nice transparency in a way, but it can actually help them.
Yeah, but
I think there will be a lot of things.
You can follow up.
One last thing.
So I think we have to want to ask questions. You can talk.
Just one line.
Okay, yes, you can. Sure.
Yeah, one line is that because of this climate change, the maximum impact, adverse impact will be on the poor people.
Yeah, that's right.
Of the climate change.
That's a great point. Yeah. Thank you, sir.
Okay, well, basically, I agree with the statement. Power and corruption, close affiliation. But there are some great politicians in the world who are totally uncorrupt. I know 3 people, personally. Jawaharlal Nehru in India, Jayaprakash Narayan in India, and Fidel Castro in Cuba. These 3 people totally uncorrupt. Okay. But we have one democracy called larger here. Another democracy is called the greatest America. So many corrupt people are in these both democracies. How do we deal with them? Can we find an answer?
Okay, so successful strategies to deal with corruption. Claudia, do you have any thoughts?
Well, number one, I think is transparency. You know, it's a long way to get there. Sweden, for instance, is in the European Union, but differently from Sweden, many countries, especially France, for instance, everything is very close. So Sweden, the transparency is the openness is the rule, and secrecy is the exception. In countries like France, it's totally the opposite. So I think that is the first, it's the first tool to allow people to actually have control and scrutinize politicians, and for that to prosecute the free press as well. Maybe the change of mentality, not only transparency, but the people as a whole, as you said, what you do. There's a lot of people who complain about corruption, but they do their own small acts of daily corruption. So it's a long way to go, but I think it starts with transparency and making sure that you have to know who you're voting for. You have to demand more of your politicians because it's you who pay their salaries. So they have to be more accountable, and it only comes through popular pressure. So I think that's this is the first step to go, to be conscious that nobody is going to do anything for you. You have to go and grab it, to demand change. It doesn't come for free. Even in Sweden, Sweden, you look at Sweden and say, wow, what a perfect society, perfect country. But every democracy develops itself. Sweden has a long tradition of democracy, but not so long ago, for instance, Sweden was shooting strikers. The Swedish police would shoot strikers. I mean, can you think about that? That was a reality in Sweden about a little more than 100 years ago. So democracies, people, they develop. You have to develop your institutions. Education is a key factor for any lead that any society has to do. So I didn't write a book either to say, oh, the Swedes are wonderful, fantastic, better than anybody else. No. They have developed, along the way. Of course, they have other cultural traces that influence the way they are. But it's up to each one of us.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like Fidel's way of doing it the most, maybe, because you have to protest, you need the transparency, but you also take choices every day, and your choice to not pay the bribe, I think was actually a perfect way, because you have these vicious circles, and if everybody's taking bribes and paying bribes, then it will continue, and if you interrupt those, you can actually probably create good circles. That's the way to do it.
But do you think, so you much prefer bottom-up kind of approach to corruption?
Not only, but it has to be that, the fish rots from the head, so you have to go for the head too, but you have to also go.
So in December 2014, as you mentioned earlier, Mahinda Rajapaksa was voted out partly due to the perception of corruption, and Sirisena came as president, Rana was prime minister, promised to rule out corruption. And then 5 years later, they were also seen as having not done that, right?
Yeah, I mean, what happened also was that there was a big corruption scandal within that government. So this is the issue, is that when both sides are corrupt, then who do the people have left to vote for? And that is, I guess, like emblematic of so much of South Asian politics, is that you almost get corruption fatigue. Like, you hear politicians accuse each other of corruption. That's probably the number one insult they throw at each other, whether in Parliament, whether out in the open. I really left field, I think maybe some stronger defamation laws might actually help, at least might actually help or prevent this kind of like cross insults throwing, hurling, which might help the electorate become a little bit smarter and get a better idea of what's actually happening.
Yeah, because in India, almost 6 years ago now, the current government was elected partly because people saw the previous government as being uniquely corrupt. And in those 6 years, not a single one of the people from that previous government has been convicted of corruption, right? So and 6 years is a long time. I mean, A. Raja, Robert Vaja, I mean, you can name more. I mean, some of them have been arrested on occasion, some of them have been charged, but we're still waiting for that top-down thing to happen. Okay, any other questions? Yeah?
Can I just add something, because this is an interesting point as well, and I think we have to be careful also because there is this, content against politicians, so this has given rise to a lot of populists, trying to come into power, so...
Okay, let's take a couple of questions. Keep your questions short because there are a few.
Yeah, my question
is... You already asked already. Yeah, go ahead.
My question is Mr. Fidel. The subcontinent nations have very infamously been involved into a lot of cricket scandals. We have the most handsy experience on the recent Al Jazeera report on Sri Lanka and Dubai cricket. And I don't know about Sri Lanka, but in India, the government has a very strong hold over the cricket body. So is there any way through which the power can minimize corruption in cricket, both at least in subcontinent nations?
Good question. So Sri Lanka has recently taken the step of criminalizing cricket corruption. So they've essentially said if you're involved in cricket, it's not only it's not only the ICC or the Sri Lanka Cricket Board that's empowered to act against that individual. The state can take criminal action against them. This is something that has been talked about in India as well. I think a lot of players have called for that, and it seems like it's a tough one because you don't want the government involved in sports too much. Government getting its sort of tentacles into sports and sometimes leads to that sport becoming even more corrupt. But I think in the current situation, I don't mind that, particularly if if those laws are kind of drawn up very, very rigorously and guard against politicians kind of losing those laws for their own ends in terms of maybe taking action against cricketers they don't like, that kind of thing could happen, but criminalizing cricket corruption seems to be a decent sort of medium for me.
As you know, in India, I'm sure you know this already, but the Lodha Commission recommended that politicians not be allowed to be cricket administrators, and that went into force. So what has happened as a result? We don't have politicians as administrators anymore, we have the sons of politicians, right? So it's actually often difficult to draft these laws in a way that actually will prevent politicians from controlling sport. Okay, yeah, back there. That you get, stand up here.
Hello. Thank you for giving me the chance to ask this question. My question is for the entire panel. While we're talking about corruption and bribery, we are talking about bribery on a daily basis. But what we could probably focus on is the campaign financing. And now when we look at campaign financing, it can alter from, let's say in the US where there is complete transparency, to let's say in India there is caps on financing, but there is not proper effective, let's say, look into how there has been campaign financing. So is there any ways that you can say that we can regulate the campaign financing where it strikes a balance between transparency to a certain cap?
Yeah, just on that issue, I should know that as Fidel alluded to earlier, since the 2010 US Supreme Court decision known as Citizens United, there is no transparency in the US because that allowed anonymous donations to come into politics. So actually, the US does not have complete transparency. But actually, yeah, in Sweden, how are political parties financed? I just wanted you to take that. Yeah, Claudia.
Okay, can start. Sweden was actually much criticized not so long ago because it was not so transparent in the sense of political financing of political parties. Though there was like an agreement between the parties. In the beginning, it was no transparency at all, but since 2014 there is. But the interesting aspect of the Swedish democracy is that the majority of the party financing is public financing, so it's around 80% of the financing of the political parties is public, and a very little part is actually coming from private donations. And now it has been open, but it has always been like an agreement between the parties that they know between the parties which company donated what, but it was not open to the public. Now it is, and the fact that it's like a public financing, mainly, it's I think it's an interesting way to do things.
I think it's really good that you are criticizing and looking into it, and I can't really see the reason why it can't be transparent, close to 100% transparent, at least after the election.
Yeah, thank you.
That would be the last question that we have.
You just take these two quick questions. You already had one, sorry. You can take it up. Sorry, you already had.
Hello. My question is about the complex corruption that takes place. A lot of time in India, the top level corruption, there is no direct exchange of money. Probably a politician is buying something in the third country, or it's very difficult to track the trail of the money. Now we have some institutions, very famously CAG, CBI and all, which are supposed to do it. But what happens, the consecutive governments who come, they try to weaken these institutions. Like they have an incentive. The weaker they are, the lesser they will catch their corruption. So in India, the executive is permanent, but legislative keeps on changing. So the legislative keeps on tries to bring on the executive, or keeps transferring them, or keeps only those people which help them in corruption. In certain countries, I have heard that the legislative select the executive. So they are in hand for the corruption. So question to all of you is, how do you think that we can make these institutions stronger? And what happens in those countries where the corruption is low, that these institutions work better than, let's say, India or any South Asian country?
Okay, let's quickly take the last question before we... No, it was back there. Sorry, got to give everybody a chance. Yeah.
Thank you very much. So I want to ask, should we see the level of corruption at a higher level, different than a lower level? For example, if you see the corruption at a higher level like electoral bonds, is different from the corruption at a lower level like a traffic police officer. So do you think because the corruption at a lower level is kind of economic trade? Police officer charged me 1,000 rupees for not wearing a helmet. I can trade with 500, he also gain, I also gain. But at the up level, is a kind of larger loss to a general public than that kind of trade.
So, Fidel, your example was about this lower level corruption. But do you think it's a sliding scale? Or slippery slope rather?
No, I mean, I have much more sympathy for lower level corruption because, as the gentleman mentioned, it's less damaging. And at the higher levels, often you voted people in. And there's like a degree of public trust that has been sort of vested in them. And the most common form of high-level corruption is probably kickbacks, when you call for tenders on some kind of infrastructure project and you accept a big kickback. And often the infrastructure projects then don't get done to the quality that they need to be. That affects a much greater number of people. Also low-level corruption. I mean, let's talk about traffic policemen, right? So you're a traffic policeman, you want to be a clean traffic policeman, you start out your career. You're not paid very much often. I mean, in Sri Lanka that's definitely the case. You're just paid for your own self and your family. And the other thing is, everyone else in your police station is corrupt. From your partners, if you are refusing to engage in any corrupt behavior, your partners then stop wanting to work with you because they depend on the little money that they have, that they get with the bribes to sort of help their families out. The inspector may never promote you. And so even if you go into that kind of situation with very, very good intentions of never accepting a bribe, I think it's very hard for individuals like that to succeed when corruption is embedded to the level that we often have in this part of the world.
Jan or Claudia, on the question of Swedish institutions, do you want to add anything? Because you say anti-corruption institutions in Sweden. Is there anything in particular?
Sweden is always on guard, so there are a number of institutions. You have like a national anti-corruption agency. You have like an authority against financial crime. So it's a whole system of integrity that tries to keep corruption in check. So you can't take anything for granted. So people don't step out of the line so often because they know that the chances that they are going to be discovered and punished are very big. So it's a system that works to a great extent, and thanks to this system also of many institutions that are always on guard and watching and looking for any deviations to be punished.
But your question is a very good one about complexity, and look, it also links to his question because the lower level, we understand the lower level corruption, but often the higher level corruption is done in ways that even it's even difficult for, even if you're, let's say, the ruling party today, and you want to convict a politician of the opposition party, it's often impossible because the scam is so complex, through the web of shell companies is so sophisticated, right? On your question about legislature, well, our system of permanent civil service was meant to guard against corruption, right? Because the idea was that civil servants would be apolitical. But the problem is because transfers and promotions, because politicians have a role in those, over time the politicization has happened. Now, we look at what we have and we think it must be a terrible system because it doesn't work. But it's not clear that there's a quick fix other system that we can just import that would have worked better. It might have worked worse for all we know, right? We have to wrap up on that. Thank you, everyone, and they're available to sign books. Claudia, your book is not on sale here, but it's available on Amazon, and hopefully will be available soon in India. But Jan's book and Fidel's book are very much on sale, and don't have to do with corruption directly, but are still great books. And so yeah, please do it. You can also get chat with them one-on-one, which those of you who didn't get your questions answered. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Please join me in thanking Claudia, Wallin, Fidel, Fernando, Stocklassa and Keshava. Thank you so much.